Best VR game category we've only had. This will be the second year for Best VR game.
And I haven't played a ton of VR this year.
I didn't either. I have to admit, like, I mean, I played a good bit. What I've found, though...
Most of it was in the first half of the year, though,
yeah,
I found.
I've cooled off towards the second half of the year. But what I've found is, like, now I'm starting to get back into VR as, like, an exercise vehicle. Yeah. Like, I just bought that game Spark, which is just a very simple, like, kind of racquetball VR game.
I mean, I'm excited for... I mean, Ace Combat 7 is kind of the biggest thing on my radar for the coming year, assuming it makes it. I mean, I don't know. But that looks great. I can't wait to play Wipeout. Or really sit down and get into Wipeout in VR.
Barf out for me.
Well, that would be. I'm also interested there because it's like, you know, nothing has made me nauseous in VR. So part of me is kind of looking.
You want to test it, see if you can find something.
I'm like, what's my limit?
Right.
Like, is Wipeout my limit? Let's find out. Apparently, who was I playing? I was talking to Jeff Kanata, and he had played it at. He's a giant VR proponent. He loves VR.
Yeah.
And he had played it at PSX. And he said in the cockpit he was fine, but he switched the view to third person, and instantly his whole world just went, whoa! Like, he was like, oh, let's get back in the cockpit. Yeah. So apparently that's the playing Wipeout in third person in VR is apparently like that's the Dark Souls of VR until Dark Souls comes out in VR.
Yeah. I will say this before we give our picks though, is that it has been a good year for VR.
Yeah, I mean. I didn't expect them to have sold 2 million PSVRs.
That's
a bigger number than I expected.
Right. So that number was bigger than I thought, one. But two, I just really thought that because they hadn't sold that well the year before, we would not get as much good software this year as we thought. I thought, okay, sure.
People would back away from it.
Yeah. Like I thought beginning of the year would be great because those were already games that were announced prior and just they needed to finish them and release them. But I kind of thought towards the middle and the end of the year they would start to fall off and we'd be stuck like with just slim pickings. That has not been the case.
No.
If anything, like a lot of the developers have doubled and tripled down on it. So look, we have stuff like Skyrim coming out right now and Doom, and like you're really starting to see these full-fledged games.
Bethesda's all in. Bethesda's all in on VR and all in on the Switch. Like Bethesda's taking some risks here. And
it is.
You got to appreciate it.
It hasn't paid off for
them
this year.
Not paying off for them very well, no. But like, man, if you don't have Prey, like you missed a real good game.
Yeah. Well, I mean, now they can probably buy it for $10.
Yeah, exactly. It's real cheap now. So.
It works out for the consumers, not so much for
Bethesda some bones in the Steam sale this Christmas. I'm saying, like they put out some good stuff and everybody just ignored it.
Yeah, and they deserve better. So
Linda Carter wants you to play these games. We know this.
That's funny. And the problem is people say, oh, I don't want single-player games to go away. Well, here you have Bethesda.
Well, here you are. Yeah.
And nobody's supporting them. And if you don't support them and buy those games, they are going to go away.
And it's not like they're bad. I mean, I haven't played Evil Within 2, so I don't know.
I have. But I mean, it's good.
Prey and also Prey, one of the best soundtracks of the year.
Yeah.
And that's a secret. Almost.
Yeah,
no one paid attention.
Dishonored 2 was good. I mean, they don't put out bad games. No. Bethesda, it typically releases high-quality games, whether you like them or not, or they're your thing, that's whatever. But no, you can't deny the quality of their products in general. So anyway, now that we've preached to try to get you to go buy Bethesda's games, let's give our picks for the best VR game of 2017. Matt, what did you choose?
Not a Bethesda game. Star Trek Bridge Crew.
Yeah, no surprise.
No surprise. That was my favorite thing at E3 the year before. Is what I was waiting for, and and this is kind of why. I mean, come on, people. It was a ton of fun. I didn't play it as much as I would have liked because setting all this stuff up and glasses in the headset and playing with it. But like what I did play for about a week, I really enjoyed, and it's like nothing else giving you the sense of place of being in this I'm not even a huge Star Trek fan, but this like made me geek out in a way. I mean, I don't know what else you do. I mean, maybe you could make like a Star Wars game that's like this, but the Millennium Falcon cockpit.
Yeah.
But like the cooperation of it, and like if you got a good person who was like and wasn't doing this all day with the fingers, but was like a good captain that could like synthesize everything and tell everybody what they needed to do, like and anticipate stuff, and like everybody knew how all the controls worked. Like it was like nothing. It was what it was like. It was like playing like a really great game of Rock Band. When everybody's on, you know?
And the song's going perfect, and you got all those people working in harmony. I think the other thing about it, too, is that, at least for me personally, ever since I started thinking about the reality of VR and it becoming a reality, the thing I always thought about was Star Trek and the holodeck.
Holodeck,
like, that's what everybody was always, when are we going to get a holodeck? And here we have, like, for me, one of the most groundbreaking VR games ever ended up being a Star Trek game. And I think the other thing about it is you don't really have to care about Star Trek to enjoy the game.
No.
It helps.
It helps to be like, oh my God, look, I see, you're seeing the thing and all this stuff. But like, just the experience of kind of like doing these little things and everybody work. It's that thing where everybody's working together to the same goal. And if you get the right group together, it's magic.
Yeah.
And it's fantastic. And it'll make you a believer in the VR thing. As a tool for more than just a game you've played before, but in 3D.
Now in VR, yeah.
Like, this is a thing that only would really work either if you built a full-size bridge or you did it in VR.
Well, I think what we've discovered
I'd rather do it in VR because I don't have room for a bridge.
Yeah. I think what we've discovered is that the most powerful thing about VR really is its social element.
Yeah.
Being there, knowing that that's another human behind that avatar.
And being able to interact, wave,
Right.
and sort of like point at things.
Yeah,
it's like there's a lot of like
it's so weird.
There's a lot of sign language happening in there.
It's just so bizarre how simple things like that in VR can be so rewarding. And this game is kind of the amalgamation of all that. So, yeah, this was probably my second pick, but it was not my first pick. And my pick for best VR game of 2017 is Resident Evil 7. And I think to me, the reason I chose it is because I think it's, one, the best game overall that was playable in VR. I mean, obviously now you have Skyrim and you've got Fallout and things like that.
Yeah, but they weren't designed for it.
They were also just ports of other games. This game was built from the ground up for VR, and it is absolutely terrifying. I mean, if you think about VR, what the big difference is between playing a game in VR or just playing it in 2D on a regular television, it's that immersion. It's being put in that place in time and it being convincing. And the situations that this game puts you in, it's almost like I couldn't take it at times. And look, it's obviously not for everyone. Not everyone likes horror games. Not everyone likes to be scared. And this game will scare the living crap out of you, particularly the first like 4 or 5 hours of it. It does kind of smooth out, become a more typical action-adventure game or survival horror game, if you will, towards the end. But the first handful of hours with this game in VR are some of the most affecting hours of playing video games that I've had in a really, really long time. And on top of that, ultimately, it just ends up being a good Resident Evil game that's completely different. It took the series in a different direction. It's up for debate whether most people are going to want it to continue in that direction. I, for one, would be totally fine with it. But I think back, I look across this year, this is one of the games that has stuck with me for the entire year. It came out earlier. I think it'll get lost in the shuffle in a lot of awards, but to me, I think
this one really does fall victim to the too early in the year.
It really does,
It was January, right?
Yeah, and I think a lot of people maybe wrote it off because they're like, oh, it's a PlayStation VR game and I don't have PlayStation VR, even though you could play this game without it if you wanted to. I don't recommend that. Like, I recommend, try if you can, if you know you're getting PlayStation VR, to wait and play it with PSVR. But it also is definitely well worth playing if you don't have it. It is a great survival horror game, no matter what medium you play it through. So for me, this was actually a pretty easy pick. I love Star Trek Bridge Crew and had a blast with it, but I just felt like this was the most full-featured, obviously built from the ground up, and ultimately a really good game whether you play it in VR or not. So that's my pick.